Welcome in, everyone. Wake up. It is Redacted. I'm Clayton Morris. So glad to have you all here. Nice to see you on this Thursday. Natali is off today. We got Christmas parties and all sorts of stuff, the kids and everything. So I am holding down the fort. Philip is here. David is here. Grim running the graphics on the back end. So it's a man's show today. It's a testosterone-filled Thursday. Good to see all of you guys. You guys ready? You guys ready? The men ready? Philip, David, you guys ready? You're always ready. We have got a lot of news to get to here on your Thursday. Holy smokes. Could we just have like an easy Thursday? No, we can't. We have Gavin Newsom declaring a state of emergency in the state of California for bird flu. Get ready for, I guess, for more lockdowns there. Even though no humans have contracted it, but that's fine. We have Luigi Mangione, of course, being perp walked in New York City. This whole thing with Eric Adams walking him after they get off of a helicopter and are being transported. It's the craziest thing. What an absolute PR move there. We're getting more details about that. Iran now prepping nuclear weapons. Yes, in fact, we're hearing from incredible sources on this that in fact, yes, they are days away from a nuclear weapon now. What does this mean for President Trump, who laid out a nuclear doctrine against Iran? Are we going to go to war preemptively, attack them? We'll get to that on the show today. Also, RFK Jr. To head up HHS. We're going to tell you which Republican senator is trying to slam and stop RFK Jr. from becoming the head of HHS. Which Republican rhino is trying to put a stop to that? Also, Elon Musk. Could he become Speaker of the House? Speaker of the House, Elon Musk. That's being floated this afternoon by Senator Rand Paul just a short time ago, because Elon Musk basically, I want to say single-handedly destroyed the continuing resolution massive omnibus spending bill in the House of Representatives. And as Speaker Johnson done for. What is going to happen to Speaker Johnson? How many of you watching right now think that Speaker Johnson is long for this world, or as head of the House of Representatives? We're going to talk about all of that. Plus, a huge update on these drones. New Jersey, the FAA now blocking drone usage over huge parts of New Jersey. We knew this was coming, right? And not just, so you can't fly your drones there, but whatever's in the sky is still allowed to fly there, I suppose, because they don't plan on really shooting them down, it doesn't seem. So all of that and more on today's show. Good to see you guys on this Thursday. Let me know where you're joining us from.
What happens if they start locking down the East Coast because of drones, and they start locking down the West Coast because of bird flu? What happens in the middle when they reach each other? Like which lockdown do they get to do in Kansas? Do they just do both? Is it
everyone moves to Kansas? Everyone moves to Nebraska. Get away from the coasts right now because they're planning something. I mean, what are they trying to plan right now ahead of President Trump, having his inauguration in Washington, D.C.? I was invited to go to the inauguration, and I'm staying as far away from Washington, D.C. as possible. I would not trust that right now. And I think that's exactly what they want too. So who the hell knows?
Maybe after the new football stadium's installed, we can go out there, from the CR.
Yeah, the new continuing resolution football stadium that taxpayers would have foot the bill for, along with $60 billion to Ukraine on top of it. So we're going to foot the bill. American taxpayers are going to foot the bill for a new Commanders football stadium. Maybe if they name them the Redskins again, we would. All right, we've got so much news to get to, but today's show is brought to you by our friends at Ramp. A large part of managing a business's financing is tedious, repetitive work to ensure accurate bookkeeping, and Ramp helps streamline this work, giving business operators more time to focus on what matters most. Many businesses use multiple disjointed tools to keep track of their finances. That's where Ramp comes in. If you're looking to cut costs, improve your business's bottom line, the best business operators have turned to Ramp to help them stop wasteful spending and approve their financial operations. Ramp is the corporate card and spend management software designed to help you save time, put money back in your pocket. With Ramp, spend policies are built into the credit card so you can prevent wasteful spending before it happens. You can customize spending limits, all of that. And say goodbye to manual expense reports because it's all handled within the software. You never have to chase down a receipt ever again. Now, get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/redacted. That's ramp.com/redacted, ramp.com/redacted. Well, Rhino Senator Lindsey Graham, arguably my least favorite senator. And by the way, I've interviewed him a number of times. If you sit next to him, he's got the worst halitosis breath you've ever smelled in your life. It would literally sear the skin off a dead dog to sit next to Lindsey Graham. It is the worst. And he had to sit next to me. Ugh, awful. Senator Lindsey Graham, South Carolina, yes, in fact, is now trying to stop RFK Jr. from becoming the head of HHS. But you know who's not? Here's Senator Rand Paul just a short time ago, proud to support Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Secretary of Health and Human Services. Finally, someone to detox the place after the Fauci era, get ready for healthcare freedom and MAHA. Yeah, well, that might not happen. This might get torpedoed, all thanks to halitosis, Senator Lindsey Graham. Doesn't he look like he would, by the way? Can you imagine it like rotting shoe leather in that guy's mouth? Disgusting. Disgusting. Yes. Word is this afternoon, according to sources, that Senator Lindsey Graham is trying to torpedo and will not support Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for head of HHS. Now, it could have something to do with Robert Kennedy, of course, last year slamming Senator Lindsey Graham over his support of going to war in Iran, his also support of nonstop funding to Ukraine, and he slammed him for that. So maybe this is his way of sort of getting back at him on all of this. What do you guys think? A friend of mine, Tucker Carlson, is not a fan of Senator Lindsey Graham. Can't stand the man, actually. And anytime Tucker gets a chance to slam Lindsey Graham, he does. Here he is speaking about, during one of his Tucker Carlson live events, you get to understand just basically how Senator Lindsey Graham is really just a Democrat in sheep's clothing. Watch.
And I'm watching this. They're literally telling me that this guy whom they've arrested is a Trump supporter. Huh? So you flip channels and then you learn that I flipped over to a channel I used to work on. And there's Lindsey Graham. And I know. He's a Republican senator from one of the most conservative states. How does that happen, by the way? If democracy is real, how is Lindsey Graham a senator? But whatever. So I'm watching Lindsey Graham, and Lindsey Graham's looking right into the camera. And he's like, you know who did this? Iran. So I look into this. Yeah, well, that's for sure. Well, it turns out someone just yelled warmonger. Well, the guy who shot Trump was also a warmonger. And in fact, the closer you look at it, the more you realize his politics are exactly the same as Lindsey Graham's.
Yeah, isn't that troubling? The guy that shot Trump, his politics exactly the same as Lindsey Graham. Warmonger, neocon. So he's about to be primaried. I mean, I think Cat Turd just published a short time ago, like, we need to get rid of this guy. But anyway, Daryl Stout says Graham is up for re-election in 2026. We need to start a strong primary challenge campaign starting now. Lindsey Graham has got to go. This guy has fuddled up things enough. His support of these endless wars in the United States, he gets in the way all of the time. President Trump kind of goes back and forth on his support for him. If you're going to torpedo RFK Jr. as head of HHS, you need to go. I mean, one of our biggest hopes right now for remaking the healthcare system in the United States, ending this pharmaceutical stranglehold on the United States, is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as head of HHS. Get this guy out of there. So we'll see. We'll see if he backtracks on this. We'll see what happens during these confirmation hearings in a few weeks. Will there be enormous pressure and blowback? It's already happening online over the past 2 hours. It's the blowback is severe. But see, the thing is, Lindsey Graham doesn't really care. I mean, you can call him whatever you want. As Tucker Carlson has called him, a 70-year-old with no kids. I've said he's massive halitosis. The guy is a rhino. He's a Republican in name only. He's a neocon. He's a warmonger. He's the worst of the worst in the United States Senate. But he's insulated because he has so much money that surrounds him. He's got the bubble of the military-industrial complex that protects him. The fortress of solitude. Go ahead, David.
And I just feel like it's like he doesn't take a stand, and that's the thing that's always bothered me. It's like if you were to try to like pin down where he stands on something, it just depends on where he's at right now. Other than war, he likes to flip flop an awful lot on positions, and I just
like
feel
the
like
wind,
he's kind of cowardly. Yeah.
Oh, he is if you look up coward in the dictionary, Lindsey Graham's picture will be next to it. And then if you flip the few pages to the H section and you look up halitosis, Lindsey Graham's picture will be there as well. Well, speaking of the House of Representatives and speaking of RFK Jr., you know that big continuing resolution spending bill that was just torpedoed and destroyed thanks to Elon Musk, President Trump, and Vivek Ramaswamy. Well, now we're learning what was hidden in this bill, and it's deeply, deeply troubling. Thanks to Lauren Lee for posting this just a short time ago. And this would have blocked RFK Jr. from updating his HHS protocol on vaccine injuries. The spending bill would have blocked this. On page 757, the bill would amend the previously passed Prevent Pandemic Act. The secretary may not revise the vaccine injury table to include a vaccine from which the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has issued a recommendation for routine use in children or pregnant women until at least one application for such vaccine has been approved. Upon such revision of the vaccine injury table, all vaccines in a vaccine category on the injury table, including vaccines authorized under emergency use, shall be considered included in the vaccine injury table. So basically, none shall be eligible for compensation under the program if injury or death related to this vaccine administered at a time when the vaccine was covered, subject to declaration under this bill. So in other words, it would have prevented RFK from updating this protocol, and for people who are injured or had suffered death from getting any kind of protection or any kind of compensation from this. It would have completely hamstrung RFK Jr. And this was, the Republicans allowed this in the bill. Speaker Johnson, along with Democrats, allowed this in the bill.
And it's like, that just shows you right there, they know exactly, like, that's a cover up. I mean, that's them admitting everything.
Yes. I mean, and that's just one thing, right? That's just one of many. But Speaker Johnson, working with Democrats, he had 3 months putting all of this together. He knew that this was in there. This is an affront to the mandate of which President Trump was elected. This is an affront to the plan to make America healthy again. This is a boondoggle for the biopharmaceutical complex. So Speaker Johnson is in deep, deep trouble. Elon Musk single-handedly destroyed the omnibus bill that Speaker Johnson was trying to ram through Congress. Johnson is about to be out of a job. If I was a betting man, I would say he's almost out of a job. Just a few hours ago, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson canceled his scheduled appearance at Turning Points USA AmFest in Phoenix. So this is a bit of breaking news. Speaker Johnson was supposed to be there. He was supposed to be speaking to all these conservatives. Can you imagine Speaker Johnson walking into the AmFest in Phoenix at Turning Points USA this weekend? The boos that would erupt for this guy. A room full of conservatives. He would have been booed out of the place. Not a safe spot for him to go. No wonder he canceled. Smart move, Speaker Johnson. He's in deep trouble. Maybe he should be replaced by Elon Musk. So there, can you imagine Elon Musk holding the gavel in the House of Representatives? So Rand Paul posted this just a few hours ago. The Speaker of the House need not be a member of Congress. Nothing would disrupt the swamp more than electing Elon Musk. Think about it. Nothing's impossible, not to mention the joy at seeing the collective establishment, a.k.a. the Uniparty, losing their ever-loving minds. I love that. Can you imagine? And of course, liberals lost their minds over this idea. They're freaking out. Are they, because now they think, oh, they're going to do anything, right? Nina Turner, she tweeted, putting the world's wealthiest man in charge of the people's house would be the definition of the swamp. You don't truly care about the swamp. You just want your own swamp, she says. Joe from Go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish that one.
Joe from Jersey. I mean, she's verifiably one of the dumbest people on the internet, but she says this: a bunch of crybaby billionaires who never served in the military want to force millions of our troops to go without pay at Christmas. But do go on about the price of eggs, won't you? conflating two entirely different things. What the hell does that? What does that have to do with the price of eggs? What? There's nothing. Two totally unrelated topics. Has nothing to do with any. What are you talking about? If you understand the massive 1,500-page bill loaded with billions for other countries, all sorts of things that hamstring the civil liberties of Americans. Like, how are Democrats okay with any of this? But that's
and this is just a testament too to how how it was in the past with social media, how that, Twitter blocked people and silenced people. And that was part of the bill too. They're trying to put more, trying to censor us more. But like the fact that Elon Musk bought X and the people had a voice, it is what disrupted this bill. It is what canceled this bill. It just shows how powerful we can be when we unite and we're allowed free speech on these platforms.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I was speaking to Mel K this morning, and she and I were talking about how like this is really we have to take back this country at the grassroots level. That's the only way we're going to do it, because these corporatists, the uniparty that Rand Paul talks about, controls this country. It's not Elon Musk. It's a corporatist cabal above our government that controls everything. And it has to start at the grassroots level. And so yesterday was a testament to that. People got on the phone, as Chad Pergram from Fox News, my old colleague at Fox, was reporting. Members of Congress's phones were exploding yesterday. That according to Chad Pergram, they couldn't, the phone just wouldn't stop ringing in these representatives' offices because they were reading tweets. And he says they were reading tweets from Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and others in real time and demanding that their members of Congress do not vote for this bill. Elon Musk tweeted this. He's been working overtime to stop the House spending bill. He said yesterday, any member of the House or Senate who votes for this outrageous spending bill deserves to be voted out in 2 years. Primaried, destroyed. 37 million views of this tweet. See that? 37 million people saw that.
Well, do you remember when he tweeted out a while back that he would fund primarying these people? Yeah. Like he will literally put his money behind primarying these people.
Yeah. So Senator Lindsey Graham, you're on watch. You're on watch. But then you saw these members of the House start falling like dominoes. Like even like Representative Luna of Florida, she said, Anna Paula Luna, she said, a lot of folks in her district needed hurricane relief, which was in this bill. But she said she was receiving phone calls from these people that needed relief saying, we don't want to vote for you to vote for this bill because it's lumped together with all of this other pork. So yes, we need relief, but please don't vote for this bill. Wow. So people are getting it now. Because of X, because of the power of social media, this information is getting out there now in a way that it was hidden and suppressed before. So people understand that this is a massive boondoggle for all of these companies and special interests. And even the people that need hurricane relief, pass a separate bill. Pass a hurricane relief bill. In the same way that you pass a Ukraine aid bill, you can do that for the people of Florida and North Carolina, can't you? Of course you can. So as Elon Musk tweeted yesterday, and then Vivek Ramaswamy joined the social media conversation saying on TikTok that the bill contains all kinds of special interests and pork funding. So feel free to call your congressman and let them know how you feel about it. Listen.
Congress is about to pass a bill that blows away your taxpayer money, but they made it over 1,500 pages long so you wouldn't read it. I did you a favor. I read it for you. It's supposed to be about keeping government operations open and providing disaster relief aid to hurricane victims, which I'm sympathetic to. But if you read the bill carefully, it contains pay raises for members of Congress, and I'm not making this up, an expansion of their federal health benefits. It contains all kinds of special interests and pork funding, including opening up a new stadium in Washington, D.C. It renews the Global Engagement Center, which is a key node of the censorship industrial complex. And the worst part is, they didn't want you to know about any of it, and that's why they made this a last-minute jam job. The reason I'm co-heading DOGE is I think we need outsiders to bring actual accountability to Washington, D.C. So feel free to call your congressman and let him know how you feel about it.
They did. By the millions. Phones ringing off the hook. So now what? Like, what's going to happen now? Go back to the drawing board. There is no new bill. There's nothing. There's nothing. They're going to have to scrap all of this. You know, the continuing resolution to keep the government open piece of this is only 6 pages long. The rest of it, the 1,500 pages, the rest of it is all these pork. And I think, you know, we've been doing this every year. This gets passed every year. We complain about it, gets passed every year. This may be the first time in modern American history where it doesn't get passed. And they just passed a CR just to keep the government open, but they don't pass any of this other pork spending in there. So we'll see. But, you know, can Elon Musk become Speaker of the House? Just ask Grok. Grok, of course, the AI on Twitter. Is Elon Musk eligible to be Speaker of the House? Grok answers, Elon Musk is not eligible to be Speaker of the House due to constitutional requirements related to the line of presidential succession. Speaker of the House is second in line to succeed the presidency, and the U.S. Constitution specifies that only natural-born citizens can serve as president or vice president. He was born in South Africa, so would it disqualified? It would disqualify him from holding the office of the presidency. But, you know, this is a constitutional question. Would he be eligible to serve as Speaker of the House?
It seems to me that no, just because that would put you third in command, or like in the chain of command.
Right.
So it'd basically be like, it wouldn't be a constitutional crisis until it was, and then it would be a pretty big one.
Right.
Well, and yeah. Thomas Massey joined the Doge team. I saw yesterday he was in with, and so
right.
I'd take him as Speaker.
Oh, I would take, Congressman Massey any day of the week. He pissed a lot of people off. And, you know, there's calls now, of course, to not pass any bills until Trump takes office in January 20th. Like Congress is trying to ram through this stuff before he comes in. And they're hoping you won't notice. But thanks to the power of social media, thanks to Elon Musk, regardless of what you think about him, there's a lot that I have trouble with Elon about. But on this issue, I'm glad this got torpedoed. We've got a lot more news to get to here. We're going to talk about these drones. We're going to talk about the Fani Willis. Huge news on the Fani Willis case, and CNN is like melting down over this. And of course, we have Luigi Mangione, the shooter of the CEO of United Healthcare, being perp walked in New York City. Why was Eric Adams there? I'm going to show you that video in just a second. But when it comes to security, most homeowners think about security measures like video cameras on their home, security alarms, deadbolt locks, stuff like that to keep their property safe. But home protection goes beyond safeguarding your physical space. What about the digital space? Scammers are getting more sophisticated, and now they don't need to break into your home to steal from you. The FBI calls it's called house stealing, where scammers can access your home's equity by filing fraudulent documents with the county, and it transfers the ownership of your property without you knowing it. This is one of the biggest rising scams in the United States right now because property records are public records. That means anyone can access your information. The scariest part is you won't even find out about it until an unpaid loan bill or foreclosure notices start arriving in your mailbox. And by then the damage has been done and you're left with a legal and financial nightmare to deal with. That's where our friends at Home Title Lock come in. And it's one of the most valuable assets is your home, and you should secure it in every way. Home Title Lock actually monitors your property records, alerts you of any changes, and if you're a victim, they, with their team, this is what's I think the most impressive thing about Home Title Lock, is they have a whole team of restoration experts that will jump in and solve it for you. They'll fix the problem for you. So if someone steals the title to your home, they jump in and fix it. It's really remarkable. You can get a 30-day free trial of their triple lock protection and a complimentary title history report by going to HomeTitleLock.com and using the promo code Redacted, or click on the link in the description box. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Redacted. I love these guys. Well, Fani Willis has been disqualified. She is done. Say goodbye to Fani Willis. How many of you are going to miss? How many of you guys are going to miss Fani Willis? Atlanta District Attorney, Fani Willis. I call her Fanny. She will no longer be able to prosecute President-elect Donald Trump for his election interference case in Georgia. The case will go forward, although how it will fare without her, of course, is now a major question mark. So CNN, though, is losing their ever-loving minds covering this story. It's just so much fun to watch CNN collapse.
We begin this hour with breaking news just into CNN. The Georgia prosecutor leading the state's election interference case against President-elect Donald Trump is now disqualified. CNN's Caitlin Polance is here with more. Caitlin, what can you tell us about this? This is just coming in the last several minutes. This is a big development.
A big development, and a big development that Donald Trump has wanted for a long time. That case against him in Georgia, the criminal case, where it's accusing him and several others of a racketeering conspiracy related to the 2020 election, it's already been paused. Now, it's not even backburnered. This is a case that will be dead in the water because the Georgia Court of Appeals is now saying that Fani Willis, the leader of the prosecution against Donald Trump, the district attorney in Fulton County, Georgia, she should be disqualified from being able to bring that case. The Georgia Court of Appeals is saying that it's a significant appearance of impropriety caused by the conduct of a public prosecutor. That is Willis, how she behaved, how she was speaking about the case, about Trump publicly, about how she was having a relationship with the top prosecutor that was concealed in this, a man named Nathan Wade. All of that, previously, the trial level judge had looked at and said, Fani Willis can stay on this case. We're not dismissing the indictment. But the Court of Appeals is now taking another look and saying, no, the trial judge was wrong. Fani Willis should be disqualified from continuing to lead this case. It would be a long process, or it will be a long process, to replace her, which is why I say this case is dead in the water now without Fani Willis, the person who was leading this case against Donald Trump in Fulton County. And just to keep tabs on how many cases there are against Donald Trump criminally, the other two in federal court, January 6th, and classified documents, those are dismissed. And then the additional case in New York City, where he was set to be sentenced, that sentencing is now not happening. So as Donald Trump enters the presidency, each of these courts that is handling a criminal case is essentially removing that issue from him to have to deal with in any period of time in the near future.
All right, Caitlin Polance, thanks for that added perspective. Let me bring in CNN.
Oh, Jim Acosta about to cry. He can't stand it. Oh, all the impropriety of Fani Willis is now has disqualified her. How dare they? An appeals court ruled to disqualify Willis because she had a romantic relationship with her special prosecutor, Nathan Wade. They fought that ruling that allowed her to stay on the case if Wade resigned, and so do other co-defendants. So it just calls her unprofessional, and in fact said that during the hearings. But it doesn't go so far as to sanction her yet. So we'll see. But we'll see where this goes from here. I mean,
like I said, the media. They're going to lose their minds because they're starting to lose all their talking points. Just keep losing more and more and more. Like, we can't say that anymore. We can't say that anymore. Then they just paid $15 million for the George Stephanopoulos stuff. News? Like, they're losing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll see. Yeah, and now, like on The View, they're not going to be able to say this anymore, and they're going to keep all of these cases are going to be dismissed and dropped aside. But this one will continue. We'll just have to see how it's going to go there. Let's talk about the CEO shooting. This was a pretty remarkable moment. Luigi Mangione in New York City today, and a really remarkable moment. Take a look at this. The accused killer arrived back in New York, and it was hit with new federal and murder stalking charges. That's because, according to investigators, he was likely planning the attack as early as August. But look at this. This is the perp walk. So they did this for the cameras, helicopters. Look in the back there. There's Mayor Eric Adams walking along. Like, have you ever seen anything like this? Like, what sort of a message do you think that they're trying to send here? I
have on Game of Thrones.
Right. Shame. So is this trying to send a message to all those people that are, that were out in sort of support of Luigi? Like, wanting to go and attack, CEOs of companies? I don't know, but it's very odd that like Eric Adams is like walking behind him it's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Do they do this for every suspect the murder suspect that they capture? Like Mayor Adams doesn't come out for literally every single one of them and walk them down the aisle, so to speak? Huh.
No, it's all for the cameras, of course. So this is interesting, this piece of it now, because investigators are likely say that he was planning this attack as far back as August. Federal crimes now, federal murder, additional charges, stalking charges, because he was following this guy. He was mapping this out for months. He knew his movements, knew where he was going. And on August 15th, in his diary, Mangione wrote, quote, "The details are finally coming together," expressing satisfaction that his delayed preparations allowed him to learn more about United Healthcare, which he described as checking every box for his target. So he was like narrowing down different targets. Then October 22nd, he in these writings referenced an upcoming investor conference, indicating his plan to, quote, whack the CEO of an insurance company who would be in attendance. He then referred to the conference as a true windfall for himself, suggesting that, this intended message against the insurance sector would become self-evident. So the message that he's sending to the health insurance industry. They also found another letter, according to the New York Post, addressed to, quote, the feds, in which Luigi claimed to have acted alone, describing the scheme as trivial and mentioning the use of basic computer-aided design in his preparations, CAD designs. He also said that it was all self-funded through his own ATM withdrawals. So he's like going to great lengths to like say, hey, it's just me doing this. No one else is involved. I'm funding it myself with my own ATM withdrawals. I'm putting that down on paper. Okay. So apparently, according to these notes, it was the result of months of meticulous planning towards the health industry. Let's talk about the drones now, shall we? Because the Federal Aviation Administration has issued a temporary ban on drone operations now over New Jersey, effective last night to January 17th, 2025. So this here is the drone zone, if you want to take a look at your screen. This is the drone zone, the no-fly zone for drones. Almost takes up all of New Jersey. It covers all of like Bruce Springsteen's homes. But all, what's interesting is like, so all of the stuff where they were seeing stuff coming out of the water and along the coastlines, you're fine there. You're fine all the way down there. But as far as like the main area of New Jersey towards heading into Pennsylvania, you can't fly drones there.
So Iran's mothership is okay. They're
right.
They're fine to. Gotcha.
So out in the water over Iran's mothership, you're fine there. And down into Cape May and all of that, where they were seeing 50 drones coming out of the water, fine. That's fine. This area, though, here, you can't fly. So it has Jersey City, Elizabeth, Edison, New Jersey. And the FAA has cautioned that drones are posing an imminent security threat. If they are, they may be met with deadly force. Here's the news report.
The Federal Aviation Administration imposed emergency flight restrictions across multiple New Jersey locations Thursday, banning drone operations through January 17th for special security reasons. The directive prohibits uncrewed aircraft within a 1 nautical mile radius and up to 400 feet in altitude, unless operators receive special government clearance. The FAA designated major hubs like Camden, Jersey City, Elizabeth, and South Brunswick as national defense airspace. Violators could face severe penalties, including interception, detention, certificate revocation, and potential criminal charges.
All right. So what are they looking for? What the hell is going on? We're going to have much more of that. We're going to speak with a former FBI agent who was in charge of essentially the FBI's X-Files, who 1 year ago on our show said we would see a fake alien invasion and predicted it and said this is coming. We're going to speak to him in just a short amount of time. But back in 1999, this video has surfaced today, and I think it's relevant for what we're about to see heading into Trump's inauguration. Like, what in the world are they planning right now before Trump takes office in January? An Area 51 worker went on the record back in 1999 in an interview and said, don't worry, in the year 2025 is when you will find out what's going on. Watch.
Had the opportunity over the years to interview, again, people who have worked at the test site at Groom Lake. One gentleman spent 12 of his 30 years in black programs at Groom Lake. When I asked him, I said, first of all, I said, do you believe in UFOs? And he looked at me with a straight face in one-on-one. He said, absolutely, positively, they do exist. I said, can you expand upon that? And he said, no, I can't. About a year later, we were talking about, again, activities at Groom Lake. And I asked him, I said, can you really tell me what's happening out there? And he said, well, there's a lot of things that are going on there that I won't be able to tell you until the year 2025. But we have things in the Nevada desert that would make George Lucas envious.
2025. The time's almost here. So what are we about to see in 2025? Again, we're going to speak with a former FBI agent who was in charge of the X-Files program inside the FBI. They didn't call it the X-Files, but it was the inspiration for the X-Files show, in fact. And he, again, 1 year ago on our show said that in a short amount of time, we are going to see a fake alien invasion that they are going to use for purposes, nefarious purposes. So what exactly is that? Martial law? Some sort of a lockdown using some sort of a radiological weapon? Who knows? I don't know. We're going to talk to him about it coming up. Also, we're going to look at Iran. Concerns over their nuclear program, and are they just a short time away now from actually having a nuclear weapon? That is the word of the head of the IAEA. And are we about to see a preemptive strike inside of Iran? We're going to look at all of that, plus mass graves in Syria. Oh, the propagandists are working overtime in Syria right now, and news reports are that they've uncovered over 150,000 bodies in a mass grave. Assad the Butcher? Truth or fiction? What do you guys think? We're going to talk about that coming up. But we're also going to talk about the cabinet. So, Trump has his cabinet choices in place. We just told you that Lindsey Graham is trying to stop Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now from becoming head of HHS. They're trying to torpedo that. They've already got Matt Gaetz out of there. They're doing whatever they can right now to undermine President Trump. So we can get excited about Tulsi Gabbard on Capitol Hill. We know that Pete Hegseth is moving forward for his nomination scheduled hearings, I think on January 14th now. So there's a lot of pieces to be excited about, Tulsi Gabbard specifically. But Biden's terrible foreign policies have us on the edge of World War III right now, as I mentioned, with Iran and what's about to happen in Russia. Our debt is still skyrocketing. You saw the Fed cut rates this week. Why? While inflation is now surging once again, they're going to hand President Trump basically $50 trillion in U.S. debt. That's what he'll have to deal with over the next 2 years in the United States. So there's a lot of problems still at our hands. And I have high hopes for it, but I believe those things could get worse before it gets better. That's why I'm a huge proponent of making sure that you and your family are protected with precious metals. And our friends at Lear Capital can help you with that. They show you how easy it is to actually transfer some of these U.S. dollars, which are declining before our eyes, with inflation running rampant. How can you take, if you've got $1,000 in savings, how can you convert that to gold or silver? They'll help you do that. You can store it in your house, in your gun safe if you like, or you can store it off-site, your gold coins and so forth. And it's great that gold is projected to hit, over $3,000 an ounce. That's wonderful. That's great. But that's not why we invest in these things. We do it as a store of value, as Ron Paul likes to point out. It's not about, surging value in gold, which is great. It's about wealth preservation. So huge advocates of owning precious metals in your life, just a portion of your portfolio to make sure that you and your family are safe. And Lear has been a longtime sponsor of our show, many, many years now. And they're good friends of the show, and they're an American company. So when you get on the phone and you call them, just call them, 1-800-613-3557. They're an American company. They will answer the phone. They're not going to be outsourced to India somewhere. And you can talk them through they'll talk you through the process of what it's like to invest in gold, to buy some, have it shipped right to your house. Or you can just go to their website, learredacted.com. Ask how you can get up to $15,000 in bonus gold or silver with a qualified purchase. I recommend you do this before the end of the year. Right now. Be prepared. Have some peace of mind this holiday season and into 2025. Call them 1-800-613-3557 or go to learredacted.com. Well, what to make of the complete mess that is the Middle East right now as President Trump is about to take office on January 20th? Warmongers are certainly circling in Washington, D.C. Do they have sway over the president? Will the president support a war against Iran, or will cooler heads prevail? What of Russia in this position now that Syria is out of the picture? Talk about an absolute hornet's nest. There's one man that we thought we'd ask about this hornet's nest to try to help make sense of it all, and that is former UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter, who knows all too well the propaganda and the lies that have been used to lead us into massive wars in Iraq. Of course, he tried to warn all of us and could have saved millions of lives if people in Washington, D.C. had actually listened to him. Are we about to repeat that same problem? Scott Ritter joins us now. Scott, good to see you. Welcome. I know trying to make sense of all of this craziness is not easy, but thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So when you look over the past 48 hours, now that the mainstream media seems aligning around this idea that, now that Assad is out of the picture, the fall of Syria is now off the table. Guess what's next? Of course, Iran. That seems to be the next move. You're hearing from members of Congress that is the next sort of pillar to fall. Netanyahu, it seems, would love nothing more for that to be the case. How do you see this unfolding? How do you see President Trump's alignment with this? Do you think he'll put his foot down and say, no, we're not going to bomb Iran? He was asked that yesterday, by the way, at a press conference. Will you carry out preemptive strikes? And he sort of mocked the reporter for asking such a stupid question. But is this something that's actually being worked on behind the scenes right now?
Well, there's no doubt that Donald Trump has surrounded himself with the most pro-Israel, Zionist supporting cabinet and coterie of advisors of any presidency. It even exceeds that of the Biden presidency, which is famous for having a Secretary of State who said, "I am a Zionist." I guess Biden admitted to being a Zionist as well. But the point is, it doesn't matter who you surround yourself with. You have to deal with the realities that the world presents to you at the time you become president. And a month ago, there was a completely different reality in terms of how people assess the Middle East. The Netanyahu government, this far right-wing government, which people need to remember is only there because I think there were 4 elections where Netanyahu's government collapsed previously, and this seemed to be his last gasp of political relevance. And it was on the ropes. And if this government collapsed, Netanyahu probably wasn't coming back from this, and he was probably looking at a trial, corruption charges, disgrace, etc. And that would have been the Israel that Donald Trump would have inherited. And then the Zionists he surrounded himself with becomes sort of the equivalent of all the king's horses and all the king's men trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, because that would have been what Israel was, this failed and failing entity that couldn't defeat Hamas, couldn't defeat Hezbollah. The axis of resistance had, backed into a corner. Today, it's as if you went to sleep and you woke up and you're in a completely alternative universe. That's how quickly this has unfolded. Hamas is still putting up heroic resistance, but now they're doing so without the benefit of that which facilitated, their resilience. Hezbollah, there's a ceasefire. Hezbollah has not only, entered into a ceasefire, ceasing military operations on Israel's northern front, but the lifeline that Hezbollah had to Iran has been severed because of the fall of Bashar al-Assad's government. That puts a completely different spin on not just the present-day reality of Hezbollah, but its future potential. There's a power vacuum now created by the collapse of the Assad regime that used to be, where the Russians had a foothold in the Middle East. The Iranians had a foothold. No one was talking about, Bashar al-Assad's regime. They just spoke of Syria as a facilitator of this axis of resistance. But now the regime is gone, and the Russians are, converting their presence from one of preventing Syria from becoming a bastion of terrorism to, we can use our ports. We can use this port and this airfield to deliver humanitarian goods. So now Russia's in the rebuilding of Syria phase, which required Vladimir Putin to make an amazing, show some gymnastics. buying into the notion that this entity called HTS, Hayat Tahrir Sham, something of that nature. I'm very bad with words, but which prior to that was Al Nusra Front, which prior to that had components of ISIS and Al Qaeda. These are head choppers. These are the world's worst terrorists. They do horrible things and have done horrible things. And even Vladimir Putin is saying, no, they're reformed, meaning that he's had to make some sort of intellectual leap here to get over the fact that which his military was deployed to Syria to prevent from taking over Syria has now taken over Syria. These are the guys that he was preventing. They're there now, and he's saying that's okay. They've reformed. So even Russia right now is struggling to come up with an explanation of what happened and where they're going. Iran is, of course, Iran is not defeated. Iran has not suffered a crushing military defeat or any additional economic harm, but its posture in the region has been affected here because the axis of resistance was this real thing that had manifested in an ability to bring Israel nearly to its knees. I mean, the combination of Ansarallah, the Houthi, bringing on this economic blockade from the south, this shutting down the port of Eilat, bankrupting Israel, Hezbollah, again facilitated by a lifeline through Syria, able to drive out 60,000 plus Israeli civilians from their neighborhoods in the north, making them internally displaced persons at great expense, both fiscally and politically. This was a political nightmare for Netanyahu. And then Hamas has continued. The courage and resilience of the Hamas fighters is unbelievable, but it's come at a horrible cost. The active genocide that Israel's waged against the people of Gaza, but that genocide is what woke the world up to the disease that is Zionism. I mean, it exposed Israel for what it is. But look, in the last, since December 8th, what are we, 10 days past that now? Israel's bombing Gaza every day and killing dozens of children and innocent civilians and hundreds on some days. No one's talking about that. That's not on the headlines anymore. It's all about Syria. This was the danger that Hassan Nasrallah warned about when people were saying, why doesn't Hezbollah intervene more decisively? And the answer is because this is about Gaza. This is about Hamas's struggle. This is about Palestine. It can't be about something else because then people will forget about Palestine as they are wont to do. It's the same thing with the Iranians. Everybody's saying we need True Promise 3. Well, the problem with True Promise 3 is it creates a general war between Israel and Iran that, again, takes the focus away from where it needs to be, on Gaza, on the Israeli genocide. It now becomes about a battle of energy security for the world, and the Palestinian people will be forgotten, as they are right now, forgotten. Literally abandoned yet again by a world that apparently has a short attention span. But now we come to Iran. Donald Trump, when he was in president, we have to remember this. This isn't his first go round. This is the second time in. So right. his philosophies that he had in the first term carry over. And remember, this is a man who withdrew from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal. Called it a bad deal. He said that deal helps facilitate an Iranian nuclear weapons program. And what has happened since his withdrawal is that the European Union hasn't complied with its obligations. And so Iran invoked the paragraphs of the agreement that allow it to begin stopping to do that which it is compelled to do as long as the agreement's in play. And so they started stockpiling more uranium hexafluoride, UF6. They began to enrich it to 20%, and then they began to enrich it to 60%. The purpose of the JCPOA was to create a 1-year breakout window for Iran's to build a nuclear weapon. That means that with the JCPOA in place, fully functioning, if Iran decided we're going to kick the inspectors out and move towards making a weapon, it would take them a year to build up centrifuge capacity, the stockpile of enriched uranium, et cetera. Today, thanks to Donald Trump, and thanks to international events, especially what's going on in Gaza. Iran is days away from having a nuclear weapon. Days. And Trump has said days away. And Trump has said he will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And what people tend to forget is, Donald Trump is the guy that issued new nuclear posture review, which again facilitated or legitimized or made American, as part of policy doctrine, preemptive attack using nuclear weapons against threats. And he also is the guy who changed the nuclear employment guidance to specifically bring in weapons that were purpose-built to take out Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Iran's nuclear infrastructure is underground. You're not coming in with a 500 kiloton bomb to collapse it or 150 kiloton bomb. You're coming in with a low-yield nuclear warhead, bunker buster, either a modification of the B-61 gravity bomb to be delivered by B-2 bombers, or the W-76-2 low-yield nuclear weapon delivered by the Trident submarine. But these weapons were put in there specifically to take out Iran's nuclear program. So we have a nuclear war plan already built by Donald Trump to take out Iran's nuclear infrastructure. And he has said he will never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Now he's coming in to the presidency with Iran days away from having a nuclear weapon. And so anybody that thinks that this isn't going to be a problem hasn't been studying this. And so now the question is, what does Iran do? And that, does Iran go ahead and become a declared nuclear power like North Korea and say this is a reality? If you hit us now, we take out? Or does Iran work with Donald Trump to try and find an off-ramp that will spell the end of Iran's nuclear program? And there's a president right now in Iran that appears to be willing to make a deal. And this is the thing. Donald Trump hasn't bought into the Israeli "we must destroy the theocracy" policy. Donald Trump has made statements in the past that say that he is willing to lift sanctions and he's not out to remove the regime. He just wants to get rid of the nuclear weapons, that he'd like to see Iran part of the functioning economy. Whether he means that or not, and whether he can be trusted to carry that out with the people he's surrounded with, is another question altogether. But there is the new Iranian president is inclined to work with the West. He has gone on Iranian TV and criticized the decision to fire missiles into Israel, Operation True Promise 2. He said that he was in the middle of negotiations with the Europeans to get sanctions lifted, to begin the process of improving the economy. And then the missile attack came and those negotiations are gone. He's not inclined towards a policy of confrontation. And so I think we're going to see, if you remember, Donald Trump started his amazing, and I still think it was amazing, North Korean diplomacy, unprecedented face-to-face meetings. He began it with a speech at the United Nations, the Fire and Fury speech, where he all but threatened nuclear war against North Korea. This is his very crude way of implementing what he calls the peace through strength philosophy that underpins his regime, his government. And I think what we're going to see is Donald Trump making some very strong language very early on in his administration, all the while reaching out to the Iranians saying, I'm willing to cut a deal, but you got to put this nuclear program on the table. You cannot be, and if you even think about building nuclear weapons, understand the wrath of God will come down on your head. I'm not defending that approach. I'm just saying that's what I believe is going to happen.
Well, of course, he still is not even president of the United States, right? So January 20th is a long way away at this point. It feels, over a month away. And we have people like Anthony Blinken who are basically running the government in Washington, D.C., and of course, the push from Benjamin Netanyahu saying, that we will never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. So in this month here during the Christmas holiday, will there be some sort of, I know this is a crystal ball question, but some sort of a preemptive attack on Iran to try to prevent this from actually happening, from them finalizing a nuclear weapon?
I don't believe so. But again, I mean, you never know with this administration, the Biden administration. Look, these are the people that I mean, we're getting off topic here, but there was a briefing that the CIA was banning about the White House and Congress about Russia and Russia's lowering of its nuclear threshold and whether or not Russia was serious about going forward and using nuclear weapons if red lines were crossed. And the CIA went in and the way the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post were portraying it is that the CIA said that Russia was bluffing. But I spoke to a very senior member of Congress who had received the briefing. And he said, no, that's not what the CIA said. The CIA said that the Russians aren't bluffing. And the problem is that the Biden administration said, that's okay, we're ready to have a nuclear war with Russia. And then you see, Thomas Buchanan's presentation at the Center for Strategic International Studies, where he says, yep, we're ready to have a nuclear exchange with Russia, and we plan on winning it. This is a sickness. This is insanity. The only rational thing he said in that whole thing is that we haven't been honest with the American people about what the consequences of our victory will be, meaning that America will be destroyed. Nothing will be the same. Everything you think America stands for today will be gone. Society will be turned upside down. And he said, maybe we need to be more honest with the American people about, what the consequences of this action will be. But they're ready right now to have a nuclear war with Russia. And so if that's their insanity level on there, now we transfer that. And so, yeah, you're right. There's no predicting. I mean, I come at it from a rational actor standpoint. We're late in an administration that has no mandate to go to war. But apparently they have no mandate to go to war with Russia, and they're ready to fight a nuclear war. So I don't know. I do think that they need to be careful because Iran isn't defeated. And if we start something, Israel is, as much as Israel's posturing right now, they're posturing on a foundation that was about to crumble. It's not like they've shored it up. There's still issues out there, serious issues. And if you trigger Iran and compel them to launch Operation True Promise 3, Israel could be destroyed. And so I do think that is what holds it back. I don't think the Biden administration is ready to carry out preemptive nuclear strikes against Iran, whereas a Trump administration may very well be prepared to do that.
Do you think we're at the most dangerous point in our history?
I've been saying that for some time now about the Russia situation. The Middle East now has gone insane. It's impossible for me to predict accurately what's going to happen because it's all so new. We just don't know how this is going to shake out. Turkey is the big wild card here. It's a NATO ally, but Erdogan has decided that he is the new sultan. He is the new, the caliph of a pan-Ottoman resurgence, and he's seriously talking about annexing significant portions of Syria into Turkey. And once you begin the process of redrawing that map, Mosul in Iraq comes into play. Azerbaijan, there could be some sort of union, that could happen there. It's a changed world. And then Turkey's posture now starts to threaten not just Iran, but the Sunni Arab world. And then where's the United States in all this? Because we are, Turkey's a NATO ally. We've helped create this Sunni shield against the Shia crescent, but now we've got, the mad Turk running loose. And from this kind of chaos, many bad things can happen. So, yeah, I think we're, there's that old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. And we have been cursed like you wouldn't believe. I mean, this is fascinating from a strictly geopolitical, analytical standpoint. But then you realize that everything that makes it fascinating is a humanitarian disaster, either actually happening or in the making. And then it becomes just tragic. I mean, what's happening right now is just utter tragedy for hundreds of millions of people.
Right. It's fascinating academically, but at the heart of it is an absolute tragedy with the displaced and hundreds.
And the greatest tragedy of all is the ongoing genocide in Gaza. I mean, the fact is, nobody's talking about it right now. I mean, there's people, the people you'd expect to be talking about are talking about it, but in terms of successfully injecting the genocide into the mainstream dialogue, which was happening, that's not happening right now. We're talking about everything but that, and this, there will be an impact on this. I get in a lot of trouble when I say this, but I think the dream of a Palestinian homeland that may have existed in the last year is finished, and that means that these tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of Gazans who have died, martyred, for the cause of Palestine will have died in vain, because Israel is going to emerge from this, from October 7th, stronger than ever, and more right-wing than ever, more Zionistic than ever, and they'll have the full backing of an American government that is purpose-built to back Israel. This is a disaster for Palestine, for the cause of Palestine. This is a disaster for so many things, but that to me is the biggest tragedy of all. I understand, the fall of Assad brings out a lot of emotions on both sides. The people who said he's a butcher and he murdered people and killed people and all that, and they say now that nightmare is over. Other people that say Assad held back these head choppers who are now in charge, and there will be even greater tragedy for the Syrian people. That's all a tragedy, but the Palestinian cause captured the hearts of so many people around the world. For the first time, Palestine was being mainstreamed into the blood of the global community, and that's over. I don't see any recovery from this, and I know people get upset when I say that, but the fact of the matter is, no matter how much you support Palestine, you can't make a Palestinian state happen right now, given what it is, and you're talking another 50, 60 years before the region will be prepared to even think about Palestine, because you're going to be talking about everything but Palestine now. That's the danger of it, right? That Palestine needed to be on the front burner. It's off the front burner. It will soon be, not on the back burner, but in the refrigerator, and then we're going to put it out in the deep freeze, and it's just going to be out there in the, like that piece of meat that you bought that you thought you were going to thaw, but you didn't, and then now it's in the deep freezer in the garage, forgotten, and that's Palestine.
Yeah, sadly, I think you're absolutely right about that, especially now that the rebuilding projects are already in place and the billions of dollars to build condominiums and a beachfront community there. The United States will be helping all of that. So, yep. Scott Ritter, great to see you. Thank you for your analysis on all of this, and thank you. I know it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to hear, but you know better than anyone, and people need to hear this, as uncomfortable as it is, as we head into this next month here before President Trump takes office. Scott, great to see you. Hope you have a good Christmas.
Thank you, and you too. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, if we make it.
Yeah, exactly. I like hearing that, but it's true. I mean, stuff's hitting the fan here, guys. I mean, whether it's in the Middle East or in Russia or what's going on with these drones and everything as we head into this time with President Trump on January 20th. I mean, they do not want him to take office. Full stop. The deep state absolutely is about to lose trillions of dollars if he becomes president of the United States when he takes office. They do not want that to happen. So what will they do? I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, I think we're seeing it right now, but we need to stay awake because we have how many days left now to January 20th? Can anyone do the back of the envelope math on that?
It's like 30, but I don't, 30 and some change.
30 something. Like, yeah, today's the 19th. So yeah, we're going to talk about the drone piece of this in just a minute with a former FBI agent who is in charge of the X-Files program within the FBI. What it was based on, the television show, is based on the files that he was in charge of. They didn't call them the X-Files. But he, on our show 1 year ago, said that there would be a fake alien invasion and for us not to fall for it. Here we are, and it's happening. And that has been confirmed. Back in September, I spoke to a source that told me that after the November election, He was read into the program that this would happen. There would be a fake alien invasion after the November election. And at the time I said, well, you get only a few weeks. Are you really? That's going to happen? And then sure enough, it happened. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to look at Syria. And, the propagandists are full at work right now. CNN working overtime about the pushing propaganda in Syria on all of us. Dan Cohen from Uncaptured Media has uncovered more propaganda in Syria. We're going to talk with him in just a moment. But first, our show is brought to you by our friends over at Buy Optimizers. The holidays are upon us, and you know what that means. It's crazy, stressful time of year, from shopping for gifts, hosting family, attending endless parties. The pressure can really start to rise. That's why I want to tell you about our friends at Buy Optimizers and their magnesium breakthrough. Now, I was at the doctor's the other day, and he had a big sign in his office, and he said, everyone talks about different vitamins and minerals. We've totally forgotten about magnesium, one of the most important things you can have in your life. It contains full spectrum. Their Buy Optimizers Magnesium Breakthrough has 7 proven forms of magnesium to target every system in our body. Magnesium is essential for managing stress, maintaining a calm, balanced mood, bone density, all of it. It can actually, if you don't have this in your body, poor stress response, fatigue, poor sleep quality, all of it. Magnesium Breakthrough can help you balance your levels so you can handle the holiday madness better. Okay, the unique blend of magnesium citrate, glycinate, taurate, and more ensures maximum absorption and utilization by your cells. So for an exclusive offer, right now, go to buyoptimizers.com/redacted. Use the promo code Redacted at checkout to save 10%. And if you subscribe, not only will you get amazing discounts and free gifts, you'll also make sure your monthly supply is guaranteed. 10% off. Just go to buyoptimizers.com/redacted to get Magnesium Breakthrough right now. Well, the legacy media is working overtime to paint Syria as a terrorist state now that Bashar al-Assad, the butcher Assad, is now in Moscow. Now we're seeing reports from legacy media about mass graves and the brutal torturing from Bashar al-Assad in prisons. We showed you the fake story from CNN, which has now been debunked. But now the story of mass graves has emerged. The butcher Assad was at it once again. Is this truth, or is this legacy media spinning propaganda? We wanted to ask Dan Cohen from Uncaptured Media, who's been on this story and has spent quite a bit of time in this region, and he knows the lies. Dan, great to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you.
So we see these stories. Of course, we saw the CNN story, the fake prisoner story that they put out. We've seen, of course, all sorts of stories about Assad over the past few weeks. But the latest story over the past 48 hours is the story of mass graves, and apparently at the hand of Assad. Now that they've gotten in there and Assad is gone, the bulldozers have come in, and what they have found is just atrocious. Is this the truth, or is this fiction once again?
Well, so, yeah, we've seen what I would call a propaganda deluge over the past few days regarding Syria, essentially trying to cement the narrative, this narrative that Assad was this brutal mass murderer dictator, and the opposition to Assad were a bunch of peaceful hippies who just wanted to reform the government. And the reality is that Syria was subjected to a 14-year dirty war. The CIA spent $1 billion per year arming and training all kinds of terrorist groups to rampage through Syria and try to collapse the government. And these terrorist groups were open about their intentions to exterminate religious minorities, of which there are many in Syria, and the Assad family itself is from the Alawite sect, which is a small minority, and so these groups are being completely whitewashed. There's a huge amount of deaths in Syria. There is no doubt that there are many bodies under dirt in different places, people who have died in this war. And there are many people who are looking to know what exactly happened to their families, who maybe weren't involved in politics or anything, who just lost their loved ones. But what's going on is the media is taking this tragedy and whitewashing it and trying to portray these. Well, for example, there's a report, a 10-minute report from the British Channel 4 that says this field has 100 to 150,000 or more dead bodies under it who are victims of Assad. And all you see are drone shots of a field, and you meet someone who claims to have been the guy who poured dirt over these bodies. But there's not a shred of evidence. And the fact is that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and we do not see that evidence. And so what we're seeing in the media is this hyper focus on these alleged mass graves with these sensationalist headlines, and the evidence is not there to match it up. So I think what we're going to see in the coming days is skeletons being exhumed, but the media is not going to bother to ask, hey, who are these people that were killed? How were they killed? Which side were they on? Anything like that. It is just going to be, this is all because of Bashar al-Assad. And it's also being used to normalize and whitewash the genocide that the West is supporting in Gaza, which Gaza is the world's largest mass grave. It's a mass grave in which there are still living people. There are walking dead waiting to be killed in this mass grave. But the media, the Eye of Sauron, has totally turned towards Syria with these sensationalist headlines. And what they're trying to do is not only normalize it and say, well, yeah, okay, Gaza's bad, but Syria is even worse with these totally evidence-free numbers of 150,000 in a single field. They're trying to basically write the history right now. So then when kids go and learn the history in 10 or 20 or 30 years of what happened in Syria and what happened in the Middle East in this period, the Gaza genocide, which is the greatest crime of this century, is going to be a footnote to this phony narrative of an Assad genocide. And they're going to completely erase Al-Qaeda and ISIS and Ahrar al-Sham and the West from their complicity in the primary reason that there are so many deaths in Syria.
To the victors go the history books, right? They get to write the history here. So they get to tell the lies about what's happening inside of Syria. And as you and I are talking, Israel has launched a new round of attacks in Yemen. So now there are literally 4 fronts that different countries that Israel is currently attacking and going after. I mean, if you want to include Gaza, include Syria, include Yemen, include Lebanon, and all of the mass media, of course, is focused now on the butcher Assad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Israel is currently committing genocide, and the media has basically moved on. I mean, there was a strike on in Yemen on Wednesday night, or I guess Thursday early morning Yemen time, that 10 people were killed, and that's just treated like nothing. This is a total afterthought. I mean, the constant massacres in Gaza, the media has just totally moved on from. It doesn't even generate a headline. It's incredible. So the way that this is being normalized in our minds, that we're just supposed to pretend that seeing babies with their heads blown off and toddlers covered in pockmarks from shrapnel and screaming mothers and fathers and grieving people, we're supposed to just pretend, well, this is just normal and there's nothing we can do about it, when the fact is that all those decisions, the decision to keep that going, is being made here in Washington. Again, just as it's been for the past 14, 15 months. If the United States wanted to end this genocide, it could do it today. And the only reason that Yemen is launching strikes on Israel is because of this genocide. And that's the reason that Hezbollah got involved. That's the reason for all of this. So it just goes to show the lengths that our government will go to in order to allow Israel to carry out this heinous crime, and how the propaganda works they can't really justify it, so they just try to normalize it.
Right, now it's just Israel's the victim, and so we should just all accept genocide. You should be perfectly fine as you're preparing for your Christmas dinner to know that children are being slaughtered in Gaza, and that should be okay. It should never be okay. And the outrage should be loud and palpable. And the Biden administration has just gone right along with it and facilitated all of this. With Syria, of course, we had Netanyahu arriving in Syria. There's, I think, a meeting between Jolani, the new head of Syria, who is, former al-Nusra, al-Qaeda terrorist. Still, I shouldn't say former. I know CNN is trying to rebrand him as like our new friend, like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. But now you see, as you want to talk about videos here, videos emerging of those Syrian freedom fighters, aka al-Qaeda terrorists, working with Israel. Can you explain what's going on now in Syria?
Right. So as much as the new Syrian regime and its supporters want to pretend that it's not in bed with Israel, in fact, all along, since the very beginning of the Syrian crisis, Israel has been involved. Actually, there's an Israeli singer named Amir Benayoun who provided what became the anthem for the early Syrian, protests, if we can call them that. And that relationship has continued as Israel has provided arms and funding and medical care for so-called Syrian rebels. And since the collapse of the Syrian government and the withdrawal of the Syrian military and its collapse too, video has just been published by Israel's Channel 12 of Syrian militants in the Golan Heights in the south of Syria actually collecting weapons caches that belong to the Syrian military and handing them over to Israeli soldiers who are occupying their country. So these guys are saying, well, we actually liberated the country from this cruel dictatorship, Assad, but we are giving weapons to this foreign power that is literally occupying our land, that just expanded its occupation, that just is bombing everything in sight in Syria, that just destroyed all of the defensive capabilities and offensive, that has just completely neutered Syria from the weakened state it was already in. So they're actually giving weapons to their supposed enemies. So these are not rebels. These are proxies. These are Israeli proxies. That's why they're doing what they're doing. The coordination has been there all along. It's been an open secret to anyone who pays attention. But, we still have people who ostensibly oppose the Gaza genocide who are celebrating this, who are celebrating what is a total Israeli victory, and Turkish, but Israeli victory in Syria. And they want to pretend that this is actually good for Gaza. So it's, they want to say we're going up and actually you're going down. It's just crazy.
I'll get you out of here on this, Dan. When you look at these mass graves, this mass grave story, are there any sort of international plans for testing of the bodies, DNA testing or anything like that? Has there been any sort of, international outcry to come in and make sure that this isn't meddled with by Israel or the CIA or sort of other liars?
Sadly, it's actually just the opposite. Instead of taking, the UN comes in or some kind of international unbiased body comes in and examines these graves and however many people are in there, it's the complete opposite. Who's being sent in to exhume bodies from graves of all sizes, whether it's 1 or 5 people? It's the white helmets, which are a propaganda construct conceived of by the MI6, British intelligence, funded by the United States, funded by Qatar, that worked hand in glove with Al-Qaeda and with ISIS for years to either document atrocities or actually stage them. They've even actually staged videos. They show their capability of staging atrocities where they can cover themselves in whatever kind of makeup to appear and put rubble all around to appear that they are victims of some bombing. And they've been caught actually faking this. So not only that, when they were involved in Idlib province, I believe in the alleged Khan Sheikhoun supposed chemical weapon attack. I think in 2018, I'd have to look exactly at the year. but there was a huge scandal because they claimed that the OPCW, Europe claimed, and the U.S. claimed that Assad had carried out a chemical weapons attack, and we tested materials to prove it. When actually those who collected those materials were the white helmets themselves. And so there was a break in the chain of custody. So the sample that they took could not be trusted. So these are professional meddlers. They are a disinformation operation who work on behalf of their funders who have been against the Syrian government all along and working, funding Al-Qaeda. I mean, this is the craziest thing. So that's who's being sent in to exhume bodies is basically a professional disinformation operation.
Professional liars, professional propagandists who are so good they can fake rubble. I mean, we saw what happened in Duma, of course, the fake chemical gas attack from Assad that never happened has been widely debunked now. They were intimately involved in that fakery as well. Oh, my God. Well, thank God for journalists like yourself, Dan, who are telling the truth. I know it might be hard for some people who are watching this to believe it. I think there are probably a lot of people watching this who've swallowed a lot of the propaganda over the years. And it's uncomfortable. I think it's uncomfortable sometimes to be red-pilled, to be awakened. It's more comfortable to be wrapped in a blanket of disinformation. That's how CNN makes their money. That's how legacy media makes their money. You can just sit there on the couch wrapped in a blanket of lies, and that's where most people find comfort. But thank you for being uncomfortable and bringing the truth to us, Dan. It's great to see you as always, and hope you have a good Christmas with your family. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Clayton. Truth is freedom, and that's our ultimate pursuit wherever it takes us. And I know that's the doctrine that you and Natali take at Redacted. So that's what it's all about.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Really appreciate it. It's hard to watch. It's crazy to think. You see the propaganda of these white helmets, like covering people up in rubble and debris, and
that was the first I had seen that was when he sent that over, and I was like, "What the hell?" It's like, this can't be real. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is real!" Like, holy cow!
Right. Once people understand, you dive into the Duma, the fake chemical attack in Duma, which has been debunked now, and you understand. It's like, yeah, there's a lot. You probably, corruption in Syria, and you might hate Assad. There might be a lot that you might not like about the guy, but the amount of propaganda that's put on top of all of that in order to shape a narrative, and then people just digest it, and then they walk around parroting these lies. So just
then those lies give them ammunition to go after people like Tulsi Gabbard because she met with a person that did all these things, gas their people, So it's like,
yeah. I mean, Trump met with freaking, Kim Jong-un, for crying out loud. It's like we can't have conversations with people. I mean, what does that make? Does that make Tulsi Gabbard some sort of Assad apologist? No, but she does know the truth about what happened in Duma and the fake chemical gas attacks that never happened there. So, it's helpful to actually be educated. Imagine that in Washington, D.C. So, all right, we've got more news to get to. I spoke with a former FBI agent who 1 year ago on this show told us that there would be a fake alien invasion. As many people pointed out, Cliff High predicted the drone event. And said that this would happen, but he predicted it years ago. In fact, John D'Souza and I spoke just a short time ago. We spoke this morning, actually, and it's a long interview. I'm going to show you a piece of it about what's going on with these drones right now. We're going to release the full interview, I think tomorrow or this weekend, and it is jaw-dropping. But we have it's a long interview, so we have a lot of work to do on it to get it out to you, to do it properly. Philip is going to be doing a great job on it. But what he says is we're facing a mass casualty event. And that's what we're going to talk to John about just in a moment. But again, 1 year ago on our show, he said this would happen. And now it's happening. We're going to get to that in just a second. But first, big thanks to our friends over at Moomoo for sponsoring our channel, a trading app available for users in the United States, Canada, and Australia. So here's why Moomoo should be your go-to platform, because let's face it, you need something better. First up, zero commission trades. 0 equity options, contract fees. Yep, you heard me right. No fees, no hidden charges. Next, if you want to capitalize on the hot sectors like crypto ETFs and others, you can do that right there inside of the app as well. They will allow you to invest in like AI, robotics, data centers, and more. They also have free level 2 data, interactive charts, making it easier than ever to identify trends. And if you want to know where the big guys are investing, Moomoo's institutional tracker lets you see like, hey, what is, Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway investing in? Right there inside the app, you can see that as well. Now, if you're a new user, sign up using our link and make a qualified deposit to receive up to 15 stocks along with an 8.1% limited APY on idle cash for 3 months, which is particularly valuable right now during this period of interest rate cuts when you can't get a savings account worth anything. So 8.1%. Like if you've just got cash sitting somewhere, you want to put it somewhere, you can do it there. Canadian users who deposit $2,000 and maintain a minimum eligible account value within 90 days can get a stock cash option of 200 Canadian dollars. Australian users get up to 10 free stocks when a new user deposits 2,000 Australian dollars and meets the holding requirements. Terms and conditions apply. Don't miss out on these great opportunities. Just go to redacted.inc/Moomoo. Okay, so earlier this morning I spoke to John D'Souza, former FBI agent who was in charge of the X-Files program at the FBI. Yes, Fox Mulder, and that storyline is based on this individual who worked at the FBI. He no longer works there, of course, but he has deep intelligence sources. And he, last year on our show, told us that we would, in 1 year, or I don't know exactly the time stamp on it exactly, he said to expect a fake alien invasion in the United States. Watch. What do they want in this situation where they would want to start taking down aircraft? What do you know from your experience in the FBI that they act, this deep state, what do they want?
The end goal is, and this is a long-term psychological operation, as well as physical operation as well. The long-term goal is ultimately to put together this grand operation called fake alien invasion. Now, the only fake part about it is going to be that the alien visitors are involved with this. They're not at all. Everything else is going to be real. The destruction that they bring to our cities is going to be real.
1 year ago that's unbelievable. And here we are with this fake alien invasion happening right now. So we wanted to check back in with John because he has a lot more information on exactly how this is unfolding right now. And again, this is just a small portion of my much larger interview that I did with John. We're going to release that much larger interview this weekend, but here is just a short sample of what I spoke to John about just a few hours ago this morning. Watch. But you believe we're heading for some sort of a large-scale destruction event? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to say good luck to New Jersey in closing their airspace to these. I'm calling them LSDs, large super weapon drones. That's a perfect name for them, large super weapon drones, because it immediately states what these things are and how powerful they are, and that they are weapons. They are absolutely weapons, and the federal government that's there right now has no excuse for not treating them like weapons. So I think everyone should start calling them LSDs as well. That might help the situation somewhat. So, like I said, I don't think New Jersey is going to be able to keep them out of the airspace because of their qualities, their abilities. We've had jets try to track them down. They have the ability to put out electromagnetic pulse to deactivate any drones or even airplanes that go against them. They have the ability to disappear at 3,000 miles an hour. It's incredible the abilities that these things have. So I don't. And
these are really deep state program. I mean, is it your contention that these are an off the books deep state program of advanced aerospace technology that the United States government has and is deploying, or
no?
So
no, it's not. It's not the United States. at all. The United States, the Biden administration is obeying the people who are sending these drones. They are, by standing down our forces. They had to actively tell the military to stand down, no matter what they see in the skies, and not shoot at these things. So the United States is implicated in this, of course, but it's not them as the source of the drones or the plasmas and the orbs that are accompanying these drones either. So there's just a tremendous amount is involved in this. But I really wanted to start by telling you, Clayton, all the prophecies and predictions that have led us to this point right now, because the people have to be educated on what is going on exactly, so that they can know how to respond. They can believe also. So I wanted to tell you guys, first of all, that we had a prediction from Cliff High, and it's called the alien invasion prediction. And it went like this. I'm sure your audience knows about this, little bits here and there, but I want to tell them
our audience is smart. Yeah,
Right.
our audience is smart. They, like, as you mentioned earlier, they are awakened. I would say maybe 80% of our audience is awake. And so
Exactly.
to the 20% of you that maybe are still fighting this, okay, buckle up.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Well, the first prediction was from Cliff High. It's called the alien invasion prediction. In 2009, he used his WebBot software to predict that a president, Donald Trump, would eventually have an interview with Joe Rogan, and that this would occur as a starting point for a countdown when it did occur. And it did occur. And at the time he made this prediction, Joe Rogan was not even very famous at that time. And President Trump.
What year was this again?
This was in 2009. 2009. So this was, President Trump was not even anywhere near office at that time. So it's an extraordinary prediction because it was in 2009. And he said that the moment that interview happened, and how he knew that interview would be important, nobody knows. But through the WebBot software is how he finds these things out. And he found out that in December, and he said 39 days after the trigger event, which was the interview, there would be, on December 3rd, there would be UFO wars in the sky. There would be UFOs and wars in the sky. Now, he does not predict events. He predicts what people will be saying about the events. And
So
that
chatter, sort of online forums and chatter, and that's how his WebBot software was working.
Yes, and it crawls all these things, and it sucks up the predictions from the language that people use, because his contention is that people are all intuitive, much more than they know, and they're already saying what's going to happen in the future without even knowing it. And it worked. It worked because he had 39 days after that interview was December 3rd, just a little while ago. So he missed it by like a couple of weeks. I don't think anybody has any qualms with that. But
Right.
But it still started shortly after December 3rd, 2024. So that was an extraordinary prediction. And that's just the first one that relates to this. Now, also, I wanted to say to you guys that in the Bible, in Thessalonians, we have a prediction, an unfulfilled prophecy that says that God shall send upon them a strong delusion so that they should believe a lie. And we had no less a personage than the great Chuck Missler, who was one of the greatest Christian scholars who ever lived. And he always said that that passage had to do with a staged alien event. So that was his feeling, and I always followed him.
Do you think that that's what this is right now? This is this that we're seeing. Is it the large scale staged alien event? I mean, we have people all over the country seeing these things. Videos being shared every night that these are not airplanes, you know, and some are airplanes, right? Right. But some are, you're seeing these massive drones that are accelerating at speeds we don't have anything that can do that. Physics, you know, wise, it would tear apart a human being if they were inside a craft like that. Do you believe that this is the event?
Yes. Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, that goes into the next prediction that I wanted to talk to people about, which is the Werner von Braun, who was the head of NASA. He was the head of NASA. I think he was the first one way back in the 40s. But when he was in the 1970s, he died in 1977. But in the 1970s, he predicted that the world elites, the cabal, they would need to have several worldwide conflicts to control the nations. He said the first one that he wanted to put into this prediction was the fight of communism against the free world. Communism against the free world, and that would be a worldwide conflict. He was talking about the Cold War that came later. Then he also said there would also be, then when that peters out, there would be a war between the Islamic world and the Western world, and that came true in the war on terrorism. Okay, but then he said his prediction that is called the last card prediction. It used to be called the last Trump card. But he said that the world powers, the cabal, the Illuminati who control all the nations, he said their last card, when their backs are up against the wall and they don't know what else to do, would be a staged alien invasion. That's how he put it. In the 1970s, he told his protege, Carol Rawson, that this would occur. And it was said it would be a fake UFO threat from outer space. He said it would be then a buildup of military forces, the what do you call this? The global weapons complex that we have, military industrial complex that we have, would take this wonderful excuse to build up their weaponry all over the world, and then the staged alien false flag event would occur. And that's what he predicted. And he said this would be used to unify the entire world behind the elites, behind the cabal that's working on this.
There you go. We're going to release the full interview. It's jaw-dropping, multiple pieces of it. We're going to release that as soon as we get it up and polished for you. So it takes a lot of work. So Philip's going to work on that. We'll get that up as soon as we can here in the next day or so. But let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. He was right a year ago when he said this would happen. What do you think these are? The U.S. government, do they know what they are? President Trump calling them out, saying they know what they are. But now we have these flight restrictions over New Jersey that were announced today. So we will see. Is it a move before President Trump takes office on January 20th? Like, that seems to be the goal. Something big is happening on purpose here. All right, guys. We are going to be off for a few weeks. No more live shows for a few weeks while we spend some time with the family. Be Christmas, of course, the Christmas holiday, to be able to hang out and spend time with the families and all of that for the whole team. My birthday, New Year's Eve. So I'm looking forward to that. It's always a good time to reset. I'm fortunate that I had a birthday that I never had school. It was a party, so I could sort of reset. I love this time of year because I get Christmas, and then my mom's birthday, and then all that, and then New Year's Eve I get to think about how I want the year to go and kind of plan for that. So we have a lot of big plans for the show in 2025. I can't believe I'm saying that. And we're also building a brand new studio. So that's going to be coming together. It's actually, well, at least all the walls are up now. The drywall is in. So we're building a new studio that should be coming to fruition hopefully by March or April. We're hoping to kind of do some test runs over there, and we'll show you some behind the scenes stuff. We've got our Patreon. So if you're a member of our Patreon community on Redacted, what is our Patreon URL, David? So people can.
I just set it up that redacted.inc/Patreon. So if you just
Redacted,
do that, or if you just go to redacted.inc, I have it right there on the front of the page. You can click and go over and join. So either way.
So, and also I should mention our community, our Redacted Patreon. We release content early to you. So we have a lot of big interviews coming that will be released to our Redacted community, our Redacted Rebellion community on Patreon. A lot of behind the scenes content as well is coming in the new year. And all as we build out the new studio for you as well. So we want to thank you guys for an amazing year. Thank you guys for subscribing and following us here. It's free to be a part of our show, and we really appreciate all of your love and kindness. And even when you disagree with us, we don't have an agenda here. We're just trying to bring the truth to you. So if some things make you uncomfortable because it might affect your worldview, we love you because you're still here and you're thinking about it. And maybe you went home and you thought more about it and you thought, that kind of challenged my worldview. I used to think that Lindsey Graham was a really great guy, and now Redacted has given me something to think about. So I appreciate you guys thinking, and we're always learning too. So that's part of our process here, is we're constantly learning and following the truth where it leads us. And we have no agenda here. We are not bought and sold by any of these people. So again, thank you guys for becoming a part of our community here at Redacted. We really, really appreciate it. We'll have great content for you over the next few weeks. Lots of big interviews that you don't want to miss. And I'm very excited about that. Hope you guys have a Merry, Merry Christmas. I think Hanukkah is also hitting on the same time as well. And I hope you guys have a wonderful new year. Get to spend some time with your family and revitalize yourselves. And so thank you guys so much for joining us, and have a great Christmas. We'll see you guys real soon.